If you know anything about cycling, then you certainly know the name Sarah Gigante. She's one of the most promising up-and-coming cyclists in the world right now, and her career has been so crazy to follow thus far, as it's been riddled with speed bumps. While she has experienced euphoric highs, she's also experienced devastating lows. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at her career in cycling so far from Gigante's lens, as she sat down for an interview with cyclingtips.com to give us all an inside scoop. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Gigante is no stranger to heartbreak. If you've been following Sarah's young career, then you would probably know that she's been set back multiple times with various injuries, and most of her injuries have been far from minor. She expressed this when conducting her interview with Matt Denif of cyclingtips.com by saying that she has never had an off-season due to all the injuries she's sustained throughout her career. Gigante has been sidelined for a significant time in pretty much every season of cycling throughout her career, including an incident in which she broke her elbow, collarbone, and leg all in the same crash, which saw her flip over her handlebars. In a separate crash years prior to the one we just mentioned, Gigante broke both of her arms in a nasty crash that saw her sidelined for a significant time as well. Moreover, she was actually available to do the interview we're referencing thanks to a minor leg injury she sustained, keeping her schedule free. The good news is that this most recent injury is not serious, according to her, and the biggest pain about the injury is the fact that she's been instructed by medical professionals to stay off the bike for quite some time, which forced her to miss 2 races. She was scheduled to race in the Tour de l'Ardèche in September and the Tour de Romandie in October of this year, but was forced to miss both of them due to this injury. But this is not the first time that she's been told by a medical professional that she needs to avoid the bike for several months, and according to her injury history, it may not be the last. But the worst injury scare of her entire life was when she was in and out of hospital following a heart scare after her time competing for Australia in the Tokyo Olympics. Gigante was diagnosed with a heart condition at just 21 years old. Gigante was excited to represent her country on the world's biggest stage in 2021 when she competed in the delayed Olympics Games in Tokyo. In the Games, she participated in the road race and in the time trial, in which she finished in 40th place and 11th place respectively. But shortly after her time competing, she started to experience serious chest pain. She was in and out of hospital for several weeks trying to get to the bottom of what was causing her pain, and eventually, after several doctor visits and tests, she was eventually diagnosed with myopericarditis, a condition in which the heart muscle and the tissue around it become inflamed. This is usually caused by overuse or sometimes trauma to the chest that causes the heart to slam against the tissue surrounding it, causing a blunt force trauma injury that causes the heart and the tissue surrounding it to become inflamed. Doctors said that she would have to take at least 6 months off from cycling in order to let her heart properly heal, which of course put a huge damper on her season and her career. But of course, she battled through it like she does with all of her injuries, but of course this time it was different. Gigante was treated in her adopted European hometown of Girona, and the doctors there, of course, only speak Spanish, so a very turbulent time was only made more frustrating due to the language barrier. Getting the chest pain and getting sent home from hospitals a few times, that was all super scary, Gigante said, and being on the other side of the world, I can speak beginner, okay Spanish now, but back then I didn't know Spanish at all, so it was not the nicest period. Along with the condition came the eventual recovery and the rehab to get her back into racing condition, which was long and grueling, but eventually made her a stronger cyclist. The training that seemingly never ended. All pro athletes love to practice. While every athlete would tell you that they would much rather be in a game or a competition, they do love to practice and hone their craft. That is what separates them from hobby athletes. And of course, Gigante is no exception to that rule. She loves to train, maybe even more than other pro athletes do. However, when she was rehabbing her heart, even she admitted that it was quite a slog. I feel like I've aged maybe 200 years since last July, Gigante says. I look back and I'm like, oh, you didn't know what was coming. I already didn't complain about training. I love training. I love riding my bike. I love racing. But I don't know. If you have a really long ride and you're super tired and it's raining, I've never been so appreciative of that. Just the fact that I'm healthy enough to go out and do it, and I'm just so keen. Any problem seemed quite minor in comparison, I guess. Sarah was forced to ride an e-bike to slowly work her way back up to road bike, and at the beginning, she had to keep her heart rate below 100 beats per minute. And for reference, going up a large flight of stairs would most likely get someone of her age to a BPM of 90 to 100, so you know just how slow she was going. Eventually, she was able to speed it up and get to a real bike and actually bike outside, but getting there felt like a million years to her. She had to sit out 8 months from her time in Tokyo until her next competitive competitive race, which was in March 2022 with Movistar, her world tour team. The race in question was the Denilith Nokkerkusser, and she was incredibly keen to get in on the action. When Sarah signed with this world tour team, she signed for 3 years and set modest goals for herself, which was to learn as much as she could and to be a supportive teammate to her fellow riders, who of course have many more years of experience. Even with her injuries, Sarah was a sponge this past year, soaking up all the knowledge she could get. But she had one goal that was very specific to her, which was to race more days in 2022 than she did in 2021. And because of her injuries, that was not a hard goal to obtain, but it was a satisfying one, according to Gigante. How many races did Gigante race in 2022 so far? Gigante only raced a measly 11 days in 2021 due to all of her injuries, so she was determined to make sure that she raced more than that in 2022. Luckily for her, she beat that number and had one heck of a year with her World Tour team. I did race more race days in 2022, which wasn't hard because I hardly raced any race days the last 2 years, Gigante says. But yeah, definitely not as many race days as we wanted. But I mean, what can you do? And I still had a lot of experience compared to the past. Despite not being able to race very much in 2021, and even not as much as she wanted to in this past year, Gigante became a more experienced rider and plans to expand on her amazing breakout season next year. She and her team cleaned up this season, taking home a great deal of hardware, which undoubtedly will seep into Sarah's DNA. Now that she has tasted success, I'm sure that there will be nothing stopping her from wanting to do it again. Getting to do races like Andalusia, the Ruta del Sol, that was a really good experience. Working so well together as a team and coming away with pretty much every win there with Arlenis, Sierra, overall winner, and Helena, Eric. That was probably my favorite week of the year. Not only was she riding in a support role for team victories, but Sarah also claimed the first victory of her young career this past year when she claimed first place at the Imakumin Nafaroako Women's Elite Classic back in May. She was tasked with attacking early and getting the lead for her team so that her teammates could rest up and then maintain the lead as the race went on. But Sarah got the lead early, and then much to her own surprise, she never gave up the lead and won the race for herself and her team. Winning this race proved to herself and to the world that she cannot be held back by anything life throws at her. And if she can be a World Tour race champion at 22 after all she's overcome, imagine what the years of experience will bring for her. This is just the beginning for Sarah Gigante, and we can't wait to see what the future holds for this bright young cyclist. That's all we have for you guys today on the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more content. We'll see you in the next video.